On the morning of July 1st, 1999, 20 workers from the Plateau de Bure Observatory were getting ready for another day on the mountain. For most of them, this was a normal workday. The observatory was high above the village of Saint-Étienne, and the easiest way to get there was by cable car. So that morning, the workers boarded the small private cable car that would take them up toward the observatory. It was a trip many of them had taken before, but this time, they would never reach the top. What followed would become the worst cable car accident in French history. This is the story of the Saint-Étienne-en-Dévoluy cable car crash. The Plateau de Bure Observatory sits high in the French Alps near the Pic de Bure mountain in the Dévoluy range. Today, the site is known as NOEMA, which stands for the Northern Extended Millimeter Array. It has large 15-meter antennas that help astronomers study things in space that normal telescopes cannot see, like cold gas clouds, star formation, and distant galaxies. But in 1999, it was still known as the Plateau de Bure Interferometer. The observatory was operated by IRAM, the Institute for Radio Astronomy in the millimeter range. The site was built in a remote area because this kind of science needs a clean, high-altitude location away from a lot of interference. But the location also created a problem. The observatory sits more than 2,500 meters above sea level. Workers, scientists, tools, building materials, and equipment all had to be brought up the mountain. Because of that, a private aerial tramway was built to connect the lower area near Saint-Étienne to the plateau above. The tramway itself was built in 1981 to serve the observatory site. It became the main way to move people, tools, and equipment between the village area and the plateau above. It was privately owned and used mainly by the observatory, its workers, and people doing construction or maintenance at the site. For the nearby village, the observatory was important. It was not just a science facility on the mountain. It was also tied to local jobs. Many people in the area had worked on the site during construction, and many others continued to work there after it opened. On the morning of July 1st, 21 workers were supposed to go up to the observatory. They included observatory employees, construction workers, telecom technicians, and cleaning or maintenance workers. All of them were heading up for work. But one construction worker decided not to board right away. He wanted to bring more materials, so he planned to take the next ride instead. The cable car left the lower station shortly after 7 in the morning. The ride was supposed to take around 15 to 20 minutes. The cable car traveled about 500 meters when something happened. At first, nothing seemed out of place. Then, people near the lower station heard a loud, wrenching sound coming from the line. It was loud enough for multiple people to notice. When they looked toward the cable car, they saw the cabin moving the wrong way. It was no longer going up the mountain. It was sliding backward. The cabin rolled back down the line and started picking up speed. Within seconds, it detached from the cable system and dropped about 80 meters or 260 feet onto the rocky slope below. Emergency workers and people nearby rushed toward the crash site. But when they arrived, it was clear that nobody inside had survived. The impact had destroyed the cabin, and the wreckage was scattered across the slope. At first, some witnesses thought that one of the cables had snapped. From a distance, that would have made sense. If a cable car falls to the ground, most people would assume the cable broke. But they later found that the real failure was not that simple. The Pic de Bure cable car used 3 main cables. 2 of them were support cables. Their job was to hold the weight of the cabin and keep it on the line. The 3rd cable was the hull cable. That was the moving cable that pulled the cabin up and down the mountain. The cabin itself did not hang straight from the cable. It was attached to a carriage or trolley that rolled along the 2 support cables. That carriage was connected to the hull cable by an attachment. As long as that attachment held, the hull cable could pull the carriage and the cabin safely up the mountain. What made the accident even more disturbing was that the cable car had not been ignored. The year before the crash, it had gone through a major safety inspection and overhaul. These inspections were supposed to happen every few years to check the condition of the system and make sure it was safe to keep operating. On paper, the cable car had been checked and passed all safety assessments. But the inspection did not stop what happened the next year. It was later revealed that the cable car had no emergency brake system. The cable car continued running without the emergency brake that should have been there if the cabin ever lost its connection to the hall cable. So even though the system had been inspected, one of the most important safety problems was still there. On the morning of the crash, the attachment between the carriage and the hall cable failed. Once that connection gave way, the cabin was no longer being pulled up the mountain. It was still sitting on the support cables, but nothing was properly holding it from sliding back down. The cabin began rolling backward almost right away. That is where the missing brake became so important. This was not the normal brake used to stop the motor at the station. It was an emergency brake built into the carriage itself. Its job was to clamp onto the support cable if the cabin ever lost its connection to the hall cable. Basically, it was the last thing that could stop the cabin if the main pulling system failed. If the attachment to the hall cable failed, the carriage brake should have grabbed onto the support cable and held the cabin in place. The cabin may still have been stuck on the line and the workers still would have needed to be rescued, but it could have stopped the cabin from sliding backward down the mountain. During the investigation, it was later found that the carriage brake system had been removed years earlier, around 1985 or 1986. It had been taken off by Aldo Oberti, the man who had been in charge of the maintenance at the time. That meant that the cable car had been running for around 13 to 14 years without the emergency brake. So when the attachment failed, the system had no last backup. There was nothing left to grab the support cable, nothing to hold the cabin in place, and nothing to stop it from sliding back. However, the missing brake was not the cause of the accident. The first failure was the attachment between the carriage and the hall cable. But once that attachment failed, the missing brake meant that the cabin could not be stopped. During the investigation and trial, it came out that the brake had been removed under unclear conditions. There was no simple explanation that made the decision sound reasonable. But prosecutors argued that the people responsible for the cable car had used a dangerous understanding of the safety rules, that the brake may have been seen as a problem or inconvenience by the people operating the system. At that time, cable cars were generally supposed to have a carriage brake, or another safety system that could grip the cable in an emergency. But there were exceptions for some older systems, especially cable cars that had never been built with that kind of brake in the first place. The Pic de Buer cable car did not fit that exception in a clean way. It had been built with a carriage brake. But after the brake was removed, the people responsible treated the cable car as if it could operate without one. In other words, they acted like it was exempt because it no longer had a brake. But the only reason it no longer had a brake was because they had taken it off. There was also another argument used to justify running the cable car without the brake. The cable car was supposed to carry a smaller number of people, around 13 passengers or fewer. Some people involved believed that this reduced the need for the emergency brake. But on the day of the crash, there were 20 people inside. And even with fewer people, the brake should have been there. The investigation also revealed that the missing brake was not the only problem. In the weeks before the crash, the observatory was being expanded. That meant that the cable car was being used often to carry workers and heavy materials up the mountain. The manufacturer had set the normal maximum load of about 5 tons, with heavier loads allowed only in special cases. But during a series of trips in May and June of 1999, the average load was reported to be more than 7 tons. That mattered because heavy loads put extra stress on the attachment between the carriage and the hall cable. These heavy trips may have weakened or damaged the attachment over time. Investigators also found out that the day before the crash, workers had applied an anti-rust coating to the hall cable. The coating was meant to protect the cable, but the coating being used was old. Because of its age, it may not have spread the way it was supposed to. Instead of forming a thin protective layer, it may have become thick and slippery, almost like grease. It's believed this may have helped the carriage attachment slip from the hall cable. But that was only one possible factor. The bigger problem was that what happened after the cabin lost its connection to the hall cable. For years, the Pic de Buer cable car had operated without a major accident. That probably made the missing brake easier to ignore. If the cable car had worked without it for more than a decade, people may have started believing it was not really needed. After years of investigation, the case eventually went to trial. At first, several people and organizations connected to the cable car were investigated. In the end, only a few people were convicted. The main person held responsible was Aldo Oberti, the former maintenance worker who had removed the carriage brake without approval from the manufacturer. By the time of the crash, he was already long retired. He was given a suspended prison sentence, meaning he did not immediately go to prison, but the sentence still stayed on his record. He was also ordered to pay a fine of 10,000 euros. Edouard Ponchier, the inspector who had approved the cable car without the emergency brake, was also convicted. He received a suspended prison sentence, was fined 15,000 euros, and was banned from inspecting cable cars for 5 years. Marinos Dejange, the former director of the observatory, was also convicted and fined 12,000 euros. IRAM, the organization operating the observatory and the cable car, was fined 200,000 euros. But even after the court case ended, the damage to the town of Saint-Étienne could not be undone. Most of the victims came from the same small mountain community. There were workers, neighbors, friends, and family members. For the village, this was not just a cable car accident. It was a tragedy that hit the heart of the town. The Saint-Étienne-en-Dévoluy cable car crash remains the deadliest cable car disaster in French history. Hey guys, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you. If you've watched my videos before or know my channel very well, I mostly cover disasters or incidents that are not covered by other YouTubers. I try to keep things different by not following the usual pattern of YouTube videos covering already heavily covered topics. For this reason, it severely affects my exposure because these are stories no one has heard of, and the YouTube algorithm doesn't like these kind of unknown stories. So I would ask you, if it's not too much, to click that like button, subscribe, hype up the video, and share it to help the video get pushed to a wider audience. Again, thank you for all your support, and I will see you in the next video.